Okay, so this is how I fixed my GE refrigerator. What we're looking at here is the inside of the refrigerator with the panel removed on the inside. I have all the food out, everything sitting in a cooler. It's a real pain in the neck. So you've exposed the the coil here that gets cold, and air comes through this thing to get cold and make your refrigerator cold. In theory, what happens is then it defrosts periodically and the water drains down through the bottom. So again, I'm going to show you this section right here. Okay, here's a close-up of it. Now in theory, this little tab here gets warm when it goes into the defrost cycle, and it melts the ice that's here. And you can still see a little bit of ice right here in this tube, and there's still some ice here in different places. You have to defrost this thing in order to even go to the step I'm about to show you. So I did this several times over the course of about a year. And what I would do is I would pour hot water in here, and I would even like take a long tube and literally suck water out and pour in more hot water to try to defrost this tube as best I could, okay? And what I became convinced of is that this tube is freezing because it's inside the insulation on the back of the fridge. Therefore, it's really close to the freezer on the bottom, and it just simply freezes. That is what I am convinced of. All right, this is the back of the fridge. And what I've done is I've unplugged it, and I've taken off the back panel. Now, if you've gone this far, get a brush that is designed to do this. Be very, very careful, and also a vacuum cleaner, and clean out all these coils, because air flows across here. There's a fan over here, and air flows across here, and this gets warm and your refrigerator gets cold. And I'm not going to go into it more than that. This drain on mine is from the freezer. This drain over here is from the fridge. And this gray tube just pops off, and the one from this side is laying on the floor over here. And I took a turkey baster and I put a rag on the bottom of it, and I cleaned out this pan on the bottom as best I could. So this plastic pan on the bottom, again, this is behind the panel on the bottom of the fridge. This plastic pan simply accepts the water, condensate water from the fridge and the freezer, and then in theory it just evaporates. I think it's a really stupid system, but anyway, that's what it's designed to do. So when you pour the hot water in on the top, at least on mine, it came out here through this tube here and drained down. So once that was empty, or once I would pour in hot water, it would come right out. I knew that tube was clear. After doing this 2 or 3 times, again, I'm convinced that the whole thing is simply freezing, because this tube is inside the insulation up here, right next to the freezer. It's a stupid design. So what I did was I cut open the back of the fridge. What you have to do is, when you're here, how high is this drain line off the floor for you? For me, it was like 44 inches off the floor, and it was centered in the fridge, okay? So when I took my little utility knife and I cut open the back of the fridge, this is what I saw. And this is thin sheet metal. I think the only reason it might be a vapor barrier, I don't know, I don't care. But it protects the insulation. This insulation is soft. You can literally take a spoon out of your drawer and dig this stuff out. It's very high efficiency insulation, but it's really, really soft. Now, I wish I had taken a picture before I did my surgery, but anyway, here's the deal. This tube right here is coming out of the back of the fridge. And it went right here into this piece here. Okay? What I did was I took a garden shear, a little hand shear, cut it here, cut this section off. So I took out about a 2-inch section. And just because I'm crazy, I took a cork and I shoved a cork into this end of it, okay, to block up where it goes down to the drain. This 2-inch piece is critical. So you take that and you go to your local hardware store, and you see the nice person there at the hardware store, and you explain to them that you need a piece of plastic tubing that's going to fit over this. Here's the drain coming out of the fridge again, okay? So you get a piece of plastic tubing, maybe you stick it in hot water and then expand the end of it with a needle nose pliers if you want to. But you slide that piece of plastic tubing over the plastic that is in the fridge, okay? Then what I did was I also at the hardware store, I got a transition piece, which is this piece here, which is actually a threaded for something, I don't know what. And then it's called a hose barb. And so I went from a bigger piece of plastic to this transition piece and then into I think this is like 5/16 inch vinyl tubing, okay? And I'm showing you a picture of the first time I tried to do this, like in 2019. And after about a year, it froze up on me again. Here's another picture, okay? So this gives you an idea of, here's coming out of the fridge, here's the bigger tubing, the transition piece, the smaller tubing. This, for me now, this runs down the outside of my fridge, and I'll show you where I put it in a second. After a couple of years, it froze up on me again, and so I moved the fridge out again, defrosted everything again, and I dug out even more. So I have more of the base of the fridge exposed to my warm kitchen air. And when I dug it out at first, this was all ice. This is still frozen, okay? But once I exposed a whole bunch of this more, the base of the tray on the inside of the fridge, I haven't had the problem since then. And that's been over 2 years. It has not frozen up on me again since then. So here's my drain. Now my condensate water comes down out of the fridge through my little plastic transition piece and smaller plastic tubing. I'm lucky. This is the back of my fridge, and my fridge is the last thing in all my counters. So I can look right back here and see this. This is a piece, it's called PEX, P-E-X, but it's rigid tubing basically. And I zip tied it and I cut a hole in the panel on the back of my fridge. So this right now goes into that tray that I showed you a few minutes ago. And then here's my tubing coming down, and I just have a plastic bottle here, okay? So in my situation, this tubing comes down, goes into my plastic bottle, and here's some water in it from the fridge, and it periodically fills up. It might take me a month to fill this bottle up, and then I take it and I dump it out in the sink, and I know everything's working fine. If I go away on vacation or whatever, I can take this piece of tubing and stick it in here. So now it goes back into the original tray underneath those coils in the back of the fridge. If your situation is such that your fridge, you can't get at the back of the fridge easily, just do that. Just take this tubing on the outside of your fridge, run it back into the tray in the bottom so it goes into where it was always intended to go, and it just evaporates. That's it. It's real simple. If you don't think you can do this, believe me, you can. You know, and I would do this kind of as a last resort. You're going to have to defrost the inside of your fridge several times and convince yourself that either I throw this stupid thing away and get a new one, not a GE, or I try this. So this is kind of a last resort, but for me it worked. And you know, I like the fridge. Other than that, I like how big it is and everything else. So doing this kept me from having to defrost the fridge every 6 months or so. And it saved me from going out and buying a new fridge. And I'm talking like $10 worth of parts and yeah, my time, but big deal. Okay, good luck.